piano bench creaked, a high C sharp that had nothing to do with music. Maya's fingers hovered over the keys, close enough to feel the ghost of ivory coolness against her skin, but not touching.
Thank you.
Never
It's
touching. Not anymore. The upright Yamaha sat in the corner of her childhood bedroom like a mausoleum, collecting dust motes that danced in the afternoon light, slicing through half-closed blinds. Outside, a lawnmower droned its monotonous summer song, and someone's sprinkler system clicked and hissed in rhythmic intervals. She was 23 years old, and her hands had forgotten how to make beauty. The apartment, her mother's apartment, though Maya had been paying the rent for the past 18 months, smelled like microwave tomato soup and the particular staleness that accumulates in places where windows stay closed.
It's tough.
Her mother was sleeping in the next room, curtains drawn at 2 in the afternoon, the oxygen concentrator humming its mechanical lullaby. The sound had become white noise, as familiar as her own heartbeat. Maya's phone buzzed against the particle board desk. She didn't need to look to know it was another bill. They came like clockwork now. Methodist Hospital, Dr. Reeves Oncology Associates, Midwest Radiology Partners, each one a small bomb that exploded in her checking account, leaving crater-sized overdraft fees in its wake. The piano bench creaked again as she stood. Her knees made a similar sound, which seemed wrong for 23. But that's what 12-hour shifts at Morrison's Bar and Grill did to a body. Her feet still ached from last night. A private party that tipped 15% and left her smelling like cigar smoke and old money. She moved to the window, pulling the blinds up with more force than necessary. The slats rattled, and she heard her mother shift in the other room, the oxygen tube making a soft, whistling sound as she breathed. Across the street, the Hendersons were having a cookout. She could see them through the chain-link fence. Whole families, complete with fathers and uncles and cousins, all laughing around a smoking grill. The smell of charcoal and lighter fluid drifted through the screen, mixing with the soup and sickness smell of the apartment. 4 years ago, she'd been accepted to Berklee College of Music. Full scholarship, room and board included. The letter had arrived on thick cream paper that felt expensive between her fingers. She'd held it like a holy relic, reading it 17 times before she believed it was real. 3 years and 11 months ago, her mother had collapsed at the supermarket. Stage 3, they'd said. Aggressive, they'd said. We caught it early, they'd said. Which was apparently doctor speak for not early enough. 3 years and 10 months ago, Maya had written an email to Berkeley's financial aid office. She still remembered the subject line, unable to accept fall admission. The email she'd received back had been short, professional. They understood. They hoped circumstances would improve. The scholarship would not be available in future years. She'd read that email exactly once. Maya turned from the window and caught her reflection in the mirror above the dresser, a stranger in her own skin. Dark circles carved into pale skin. Hair pulled back in a perpetual ponytail because she couldn't remember the last time she'd had energy for more than that. The Morrisons' uniform polo hung on her frame, navy blue with the logo embroidered in gold thread that was starting to fray at the edges. Somewhere in this apartment was a box. She knew exactly where it was, top shelf of the closet, behind the winter coats that were too heavy for practical use but too expensive to throw away. In that box was her acceptance letter, her high school recital programs, photographs of her at the state competition where she'd placed first in classical performance. There was a medal in there too, heavy and gold, hanging from a ribbon that had once been crimson but had faded to the color of old roses. She hadn't opened that box in 3 years. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she looked. Her manager at Morrison's. Can you cover Sheila's shift tonight? 5 close, double if you want it. Her thumbs moved automatically. Yes. She needed the money. She always needed the money. The medical bills were a hydra. Cut down 1 and 2 more appeared. Her mother's insurance covered 70%, which sounded generous until you realized that 30% of catastrophic cancer treatment could fund a small nation. The oxygen concentrator clicked, shifted into a different gear. Through the thin walls, Maya heard her mother cough, a wet, rattling sound that made her own chest hurt in sympathy. She should eat something. She should sleep. The shift started in 3 hours, which meant she had maybe 90 minutes to close her eyes if she left now to catch the bus. The car had died 6 months ago, and resurrection had cost more than it was worth. Some things, once dead, stayed that way. Maya grabbed her bag, a canvas tote that had seen better days, duct tape holding one strap in place. She paused at her mother's door, listening. The coughing had stopped. Just the breathing now, steady and mechanical and alive. Still alive. That was what mattered. That was what she told herself every morning, every night, every time she looked at her empty savings account where a future used to be. The bus ride to Morrison's took 40 minutes and 2 transfers. Maya spent it staring out the window, watching the city scroll past like a film she'd seen too many times. The same streets, the same stores, the same everything. Sometimes she felt like she was stuck in a loop, living the same day over and over with only minor variations. Different bills, different customers, same exhaustion. The bar was already busy when she arrived. Morrison's catered to a specific clientele, business types who wanted to feel edgy by drinking in a place with exposed brick and Edison bulbs but still expected craft cocktails and small plates. Maya had memorized the menu in her first week. Duck confit sliders, truffle fries, burrata with heirloom tomatoes. Food she couldn't afford to eat at the place where she worked. "You're early," Tony said from behind the bar. He was polishing glasses, the same motion he'd been making for the 30 years he'd worked here. "Thought you weren't on till 5. Picking up Sheila's shift?" He grunted, which was Tony's version of sympathy. "You're gonna burn out, kid." She tied on her apron without responding. Burnout implied there was still something left to burn. The evening blurred into the familiar rhythm of service. Orders taken, drinks delivered, plates ferried from kitchen to table while avoiding the particularly handsy regular in booth 7. Maya moved through it like a dancer executing choreography she'd learned by rote, her body on autopilot while her mind drifted somewhere else entirely. A table of finance bros in expensive suits argued about crypto. A couple on a first date giggled over wine they couldn't taste the quality of. An older man sat alone at the bar, nursing bourbon and scrolling through his phone with the peculiar loneliness that came from being surrounded by people, but connected to none of them at 9 o'clock. A group came in that made Maya's autopilot stutter. They were young. Her age, maybe younger. 3 guys and 2 girls dressed in that specific way that screamed art school or trust fund or both. One of the guys carried a guitar case covered in stickers, and the sight of it hit Maya like a fist to the sternum. She showed them to a table near the window, recited the specials, took their drink orders, tried not to look at the guitar case propped against the wall. "We just played the Riviera," one of the girls was saying, her voice carrying that particular brightness of success. "Small venue, but it was packed. The acoustics were insane." "Wait till we open for the National next month," guitar case guy said. "That's the real deal. My manager thinks scouts will be there." They were living her life. The one she was supposed to have. Maya brought their drinks, took their food orders, smiled with her customer service smile that felt like a mask she'd worn so long it had fused to her face. She was turning to leave when guitar case guy called out, "Hey, do you know anything about music?" She froze. "A little." "We're trying to settle a debate." He leaned back in his chair, casual, confident. "Berkeley versus Juilliard. Which is the better school for contemporary performance?" The name hit her like a slap. Berkeley. She could still see that cream-colored acceptance letter, still feel the weight of possibility it had held. Berkeley, she heard herself say. Better industry connections, more focus on contemporary genres and production. Juilliard is incredible for classical, but if you want to work in modern music, Berkeley opens more doors. They looked at her with mild surprise, the way people look at a piece of furniture that suddenly speaks. "You go there?" one of the other girls asked. "No." The word came out harder than she intended. "I just know people who did." She walked away before they could ask more questions, her hands shaking slightly as she punched in their order. Behind the bar, Tony gave her a look but didn't comment. He'd learned not to ask about the things that made her hands shake. The rest of the shift dragged. The music kids stayed for 2 hours, their laughter like needles under her skin. They tipped 22% and left their napkins crumpled on the table, careless in the way of people who'd never had to think about money, never had to choose between their dreams and someone else's survival. Maya cleaned their table last, stacking plates with mechanical precision. The guitar case was gone, but she could still see its ghost against the wall. All those stickers representing all those places, all that living. By the time she locked up at midnight, her feet were screaming and her jaw ached from holding her customer service smile. The night bus was late, so she stood at the stop under a flickering streetlight, watching moths kamikaze into the bulb with dull determination. Her phone buzzed. Her mother's night nurse. Maya paid her under the table $60 for a 4-hour shift, which was somehow both too much and not enough. She had a good evening, ate some soup, oxygen levels stable. See you tomorrow night. Good evening, stable. These were the victories now. Well, not standing ovations or encore performances or scholarship acceptance letters, just stable, just alive. The bus finally came, graffitied and reeking of industrial cleaner and human desperation. Maya found a seat by the window and pressed her forehead against the glass, cool against her skin. Outside, the city at night looked almost beautiful, all those lights hiding all that darkness. She closed her eyes. The sound that woke her wasn't the bus driver calling her stop. It was music, piano music specifically. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 in C minor, the third movement. She knew it like she knew her own heartbeat because she'd performed it once at the state finals her senior year. She could still feel the weight of those chords in her fingers, the way the melody had built and built until it felt like she was flying. But the sound wasn't coming from her memory. It was real, drifting through an open window somewhere, live and immediate, and Maya's eyes snapped open. She wasn't on the bus. She was sitting at a piano. Her hands were on the keys, actually on the keys, not hovering ghost-like above them. And they were moving, executing the exact passage she'd been thinking about, the one from the state finals. Her fingers flew across the ivory with a muscle memory she'd thought was dead. Buried under 3 years of slinging drinks and wiping tables, the room came into focus slowly, like a photograph developing. High ceilings, afternoon light through tall windows, the smell of furniture polish, and the specific mustiness of old wood. This wasn't her mother's apartment. This wasn't Morrison's. This wasn't anywhere she recognized. But simultaneously, it was everywhere she recognized, deep in her bones. She was in the practice rooms at Lincoln High School. Her high school, the realization should have made her stop playing, but her hands kept moving, completing the passage, executing the final crescendo. The last chord rang out, hanging in the air like a question mark. Maya stared at her hands. They looked wrong. Not wrong exactly, but different. Younger. The calluses from carrying drink trays were gone, the scar on her right thumb from that time she'd cut herself on a broken glass. Not there. Her nails were neat, not bitten down to the quick. She turned her hands over, examining them like artifacts from an archaeological dig. These were her hands from 4 years ago, her 18-year-old hands. The door burst open. "Maya, there you are. Miss Chen is looking for you." "The Berkeley Scout is here early." The girl in the doorway was Rebecca Park. Rebecca, who'd been Maya's accompanist senior year. Rebecca, who'd gone to Northwestern on a piano scholarship, and who Maya had last seen at graduation 4 years ago. But Rebecca didn't look 4 years older. She looked exactly like she had then. Same asymmetrical bob, same glasses with the purple frames, same band t-shirt she'd worn to every rehearsal their senior year. "Did you hear me?" Rebecca asked. "The scout is here, like now, in Miss Chen's office." Maya's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of data that didn't compute. Lincoln High School, her 18-year-old hands. Rebecca looking exactly like she had senior year. The Berkeley Scout. The Berkeley Scout. She remembered this day. Not clearly, not until this moment. But now it was rushing back like water through a broken dam. March 15th, her senior year, the day a scout from Berkeley had come to hear her play. The day that had led to the scholarship offer, the day that had started everything, the day that had been exactly 4 years and 3 months ago. "I need you to focus," Rebecca was saying, snapping her fingers in front of Maya's face. "You've been acting weird all day. Are you nervous? Because you're going to be amazing. You're always amazing." Maya stood up from the piano bench too fast, and the room tilted. She grabbed the edge of the piano to steady herself. Her bag was on the chair where she'd what? Left it? She didn't remember coming here. She didn't remember this morning. The last thing she clearly remembered was being on the bus, heading home from Morrison's, so tired down to her bones, thinking about Rachmaninoff and now she was here. She was 18 years old, standing in the practice room at Lincoln High School, and the Berkeley Scout was waiting to hear her play. "I need a minute," Maya managed. "You don't have a minute? Come on." Rebecca grabbed her hand, young hand, uncalloused hand, impossible hand, and pulled her toward the door. The hallways of Lincoln High School were exactly as Maya remembered, and also entirely surreal. The same industrial beige walls, the same motivational posters that weren't motivating, the same smell of floor wax and teenager. Students passed in clusters, their faces familiar in a way that made Maya's chest tight. There was David Chen, who'd sat behind her in AP English. There was the girl whose name she'd never learned, but who always ate lunch alone by the east stairwell. They were all 4 years younger. They were all exactly as they'd been. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket, except she didn't have pockets in the Morrison's polo. She was wearing jeans, her favorite pair from high school that she'd donated to Goodwill 2 years ago because they didn't fit anymore. She pulled out her phone, not her cracked screen smartphone with the battery that died at 40%, but her old iPhone 6 with the case covered in sheet music patterns. The date on the screen read March 15th, 2021. She stopped walking so abruptly that Rebecca ran into her. Maya, seriously, what is wrong with you? What was wrong with her? She was 23 years old in an 18-year-old body. She was standing in a high school she'd graduated from 4 years ago. She'd been on a bus at midnight in 2025, and now she was here, in 2021, about to audition for a scout from a school she'd turned down because her mother... The thought hit her like lightning. Her mother, who in this timeline was healthy, who wouldn't be diagnosed for another 3 weeks, who was probably at work right now at the hospital where she'd been a nurse for 20 years, completely unaware that in 21 days she would collapse in the produce section of Albertsons and everything would change. "I think I'm going to be sick," Maya said. No, you don't get to be sick right now." Rebecca steered her down the hall with surprising force for someone so small. "You've been preparing for this for months. The scout is here to hear you play Rachmaninoff, and you're going to walk in there and blow his mind like you always do, and then you're going to get your scholarship and get out of this town and become famous, and thank me in your Grammy speech." Rebecca's words were like stones dropping into dark water, each one sending ripples through Maya's fractured sense of reality. This was the day. The day that had set everything in motion. The scholarship, the acceptance letter, the impossible choice between her future and her mother's life. But this time, she knew what was coming. This time, she knew that 3 weeks from now, everything would shatter. This time... Here we go. Rebecca pushed open the door to Miss Chen's office. "I'll be in the practice room. Break a leg. Not literally, you know what I mean." The office was small, so crowded with filing cabinets and a desk covered in sheet music. Miss Chen stood by the window. Ms. Chen, who'd been Maya's piano teacher for 4 years, who'd written the recommendation letter that got her the Berkeley audition, who'd cried at Maya's last recital. She looked exactly as Maya remembered. Gray hair in a bun, reading glasses on a chain, cardigan with actual elbow patches. And sitting in the chair across from her was a man in his 40s, wearing jeans and a blazer, holding a leather portfolio. The scout. "Maya," Miss Chen's face lit up. "This is David Okonkwo from Berkeley's admissions office. David, this is Maya Lin, the student I told you about." David stood, extended his hand. Maya shook it automatically, her brain still several steps behind her body. His hand was warm, his grip firm. Real. All of this was real. "I've heard wonderful things," David said. His voice had a slight accent. Nigerian, Maya remembered now. She'd learned this about him last time, in the conversation after the audition when he'd told her she was exactly what Berkeley was looking for. "Miss Chen says you're one of the most talented students she's ever taught." Maya's being modest, Miss Chen interjected. "She won state finals last year with a near-perfect score. She's performed at Carnegie Hall. The youth competition showcase," Maya heard herself correct. "Not like a solo concert," David smiled. "Still impressive. I'd love to hear you play. What have you prepared?" This was where she was supposed to say Rachmaninoff, where she was supposed to walk to the upright in the corner, sit down, and play the piece she'd been perfecting for 6 months. Where she was supposed to impress him enough that he'd recommend her for a full scholarship, which would arrive in 3 weeks in the mail, the same day her mother would collapse in a supermarket. But Maya just stood there, her mind 1,000 miles away, and 4 years in the future, thinking about an oxygen concentrator humming in a small apartment, about bills that never stopped coming, about the weight of choosing between your dreams and someone else's survival. "Maya?" Miss Chen's voice held a note of concern. "Are you all right?" No, she wasn't all right. She was trapped in a loop, living a day she'd already lived, armed with knowledge that felt more like curse than gift. Because what was she supposed to do with this? Play for the scout, get the scholarship, and then what? Turn it down again when her mother got sick? Accept it and let her mother navigate cancer treatment alone? The walls of the small office felt like they were closing in. The window behind Miss Chen showed the parking lot, and beyond that, the football field where she'd spent countless afternoons in the marching band, back when she'd thought music was just something she was good at, before she'd understood it was the only thing that made her feel alive. "I'm sorry," Maya said. "I need some air." She walked out before either of them could stop her, down the hallway where students stared because Maya Lin didn't walk out of important meetings, didn't panic, didn't crack under pressure. She pushed through the double doors and into the spring afternoon, because it was spring, March, 65 degrees and sunny, not the muggy summer night she'd left behind in 2025. The parking lot was half full. Maya walked past the familiar cars until she found a concrete barrier at the edge of the lot and sat down hard. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. This couldn't be real. People didn't travel through time. They didn't get do-overs. They didn't wake up 4 years in the past with all their memories intact. Except apparently they did, because here she was. A car door slammed. Maya looked up to see a woman getting out of a silver Honda Civic in the parking lot. The woman was wearing scrubs, blue, with a pattern of tiny stethoscopes. She was fumbling with her phone, checking the time, clearly in a hurry. The woman was Maya's mother, her mother looking healthy and vital, and completely cancer-free because the cancer hadn't been discovered yet, hadn't started its hostile takeover yet. It was still just cells dividing silently in the dark. Maya stood up without thinking, took 3 steps toward the car before stopping herself. What was she supposed to do? Run up and hug her? Warn her? Tell her that in 3 weeks she needed to go to the doctor, needed to demand a full workup, needed to catch it before it caught her? Her mother looked up, saw Maya, and waved. "Sweetheart, I thought your audition was at 2. "It is. I'm just..." Maya's voice sounded strange to her own ears. "Taking a break." Her mother walked over, and Maya could see details she'd forgotten in the blur of the last 4 years. The laugh lines around her eyes, the silver streak in her dark hair that she always said made her look distinguished, the small scar on her chin from when she'd fallen off her bike as a kid. She looked so alive it hurt to see. "Nervous?" her mother asked, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind Maya's ear. The gesture was so familiar, so casually loving, that Maya felt her throat close up. "Yeah," she managed. "You're going to do great. You always do," her mother smiled. "I just wanted to stop by and wish you luck before my shift. I'm working a double, so I won't see you till tomorrow morning, but I want to hear all about it then, okay?" Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. "That's my girl." Her mother kissed her forehead, a quick press of lips that smelled like the lavender lotion she always wore. "Go show them what you've got. I'm so proud of you." She walked back toward the school building. She was dropping off some paperwork for the school nurse, Maya remembered now. A routine thing. Nothing significant. Just a normal day in a normal life that would stop being normal in exactly 21 days. Maya watched her go, this woman who would sacrifice everything for her, who would insist Maya take the scholarship, even as she underwent chemotherapy, who would say, "I'll be fine," with tubes in her arms and poison dripping into her veins. The scholarship she would turn down anyway, because how do you leave someone you love when they're dying? Except her mother hadn't died. The treatments had worked, technically, she'd survived. But survival wasn't the same as thriving. She'd lost her job because you couldn't be a nurse when you were too weak to stand for a full shift. They'd lost the house because medical bills didn't care about mortgage payments. She'd survived, but the cost had been everything else. Her career, her independence, her vitality. And Maya had survived too. But the cost had been her future. The door to the school opened and Rebecca emerged, scanning the parking lot. She spotted Maya and jogged over. "Okay, what is going on with you?" Rebecca asked. "Miss Chen is freaking out. The scout is confused. You literally ran out of your own audition." "I know. So, are you coming back? Because if you don't audition, you don't get the scholarship. And if you don't get the scholarship, I know what happens." Maya interrupted. Rebecca stared at her. "Are you having a breakdown? Is this a breakdown? Because if you need to have a breakdown, fine. But maybe schedule it for after the audition that could literally change your entire life." Change her life? That was the thing, wasn't it? The audition had changed her life. The scholarship had changed her life. Or it would have. if she'd been able to take it, but she'd gotten the same result in the end, a life lived in service to someone else's survival. Her dreams filed away in a box on a closet shelf. But this time, she knew it was coming. This time, she could prepare. And this thought hit her like a physical blow, this time, she could stop it. "Rebecca," Maya said slowly, "if you knew someone was going to get sick, really sick, and you could warn them early enough to maybe prevent it, or at least catch it sooner, would you?" Is this a philosophy question? Because I have a calculus test next period I should probably be studying for. "I'm serious," Rebecca sighed. "Yes, obviously. If I could save someone from getting sick, I would. But that's not how life works. We can't see the future, but Maya could see the future. She'd already lived it." She pulled out her phone, the one from 2021 with the full battery and the uncracked screen, and opened the calendar app. March 15th, 2021, 3 weeks until April 5th. 3 weeks until her mother would collapse. 3 weeks to figure out how to change everything. "I need to go," Maya said. "What?" "No, you need to go back inside and audition." "I will." Maya was already walking toward the bike rack where she'd locked her old 10-speed this morning. Another thing she'd forgotten she used to do. "I just need to do something first. Maya!" But she was already unlocking the bike, swinging her leg over, pedaling toward the parking lot exit. The spring air felt sharp in her lungs. Her legs remembered this motion, this particular bike, this route. She rode past Morrison's, except it wasn't Morrison's yet. Oh, it was still that Thai restaurant that would go out of business in 2022. She rode past the bus stop where she'd stood just hours ago, or 4 years from now, depending on how you counted, past the apartment building her mother would move into after losing the house. She rode to her real house, her childhood home, the 3-bedroom ranch with the blue shutters, and the garden her mother had spent 15 years cultivating. It was still theirs. In this timeline, it was still theirs. Maya dropped the bike on the lawn and used her key, a key she'd thrown away years ago, but that was now miraculously in her pocket, to let herself in. The house smelled like home, like the lemon cleaner her mother loved, and the vanilla candles that were always burning. Photos lined the hallway, Maya at various piano recitals, her mother graduating from nursing school, the two of them at the Grand Canyon on a road trip when Maya was 12. She went straight to the kitchen and opened the junk drawer where her mother kept everything that didn't have a proper place. Batteries, rubber bands, takeout menus, and there, a small address book with emergency numbers. Maya flipped to the page where her mother had written the number for Dr. Patterson, her primary care physician. She pulled out her phone and took a photo of the number. Then she went to her mother's bedroom. Neat, organized, the bed made with hospital corners, and found her insurance card in the nightstand drawer. Photo, evidence, information. She sat on her mother's bed, surrounded by the normalcy of this moment, this timeline where nothing had gone wrong yet. The afternoon light came through the window at an angle that made the dust motes visible, tiny galaxies spinning in the shaft of sun. Maya had 3 weeks. 3 weeks to convince a healthy woman to get tested for a disease she had no symptoms of. 3 weeks to prevent the future she'd already lived. 3 weeks to save everything. Or 3 weeks to go insane trying to explain something that was impossible to explain. She thought about the audition she'd just walked out of, the scout who was probably packing up his portfolio right now, writing off Maya Lin as another talented student who'd cracked under pressure. She thought about the scholarship offer that wouldn't come now, the acceptance letter that wouldn't arrive. And she thought about her mother, healthy and vital in the parking lot. And heading to work without any idea that her body was already betraying her. Maya pulled out her phone and called the number for Dr. Patterson's office. Midwest Family Medical? This is Jennifer. Hi, Maya said. I need to schedule an appointment for my mother, Susan Lin. It's kind of urgent. The practice room at Lincoln High felt different when Maya returned to it the next morning. The same space where she'd spent countless hours, where she'd learned the architecture of sonatas and the grammar of chord progressions, now felt like a stage set. Familiar, but fundamentally false, like walking through a museum of your own life. She'd left the appointment card for her mother on the kitchen counter before school, along with a note, "Please go to this. I'm worried about you. Love, M." It was vague enough to be believable, specific enough to be concerning. Whether it would work was another question entirely. Rebecca was already at the piano when Maya walked in, running through scales with the mechanical precision of someone who'd done them 10,000 times. "So?" Rebecca said without looking up. "Want to explain yesterday's meltdown?" Maya set her bag down carefully, buying time. "How did you explain to someone that you'd lived 4 more years than they had? That you'd watched the future collapse and were now trying to rebuild it from the foundation up?" "I just needed a minute," Maya said finally. "You needed like 60 minutes. Miss Chen spent half of yesterday afternoon trying to reschedule with the Berkeley Scout. He's coming back Monday." Monday. 4 days from now. In the original timeline? God. Or she was thinking in terms of timelines now. She'd aced the audition. She'd played Rachmaninoff like she was born to it, like the piano was just an extension of her body. The Scout had been impressed. The scholarship offer had come, and she'd turned it down. "I'll be ready Monday," Maya said. "You better be. Miss Chen is already stressed about the spring concert, and Mr. Harrison is threatening to cut the music program budget again, and—" Rebecca stopped mid-scale. "Are you even listening to me?" "Sorry, yes, budget cuts. I'm listening." But she wasn't, not really. Her mind was stuck on the appointment card, on whether her mother would go, on how to convince a healthy woman that she needed to be screened for something that hadn't manifested yet. In the original timeline, the cancer had been caught at stage 3 because her mother had ignored symptoms for months, the fatigue she'd attributed to her nursing shifts, the occasional pain she'd written off as stress. But right now, there were no symptoms. Right now, her mother was perfectly healthy by all observable metrics. Maya sat at the piano, let her fingers find middle C. The note rang out, pure and simple, a fixed point in a reality that had become fundamentally unstable. "You're doing the thing," Rebecca said. "What thing?" "The thing where you touch the piano like it's going to bite you. You only do that when something's really wrong." Maya wanted to laugh. Something was really wrong. Everything was really wrong. She was 18 years old and 23 years old simultaneously. She was standing at a crossroads where all the paths led to loss. Her dreams or her mother, her future or her family, the scholarship or the sickness, except maybe she could find a third path, a fourth path, a path that didn't require her to sacrifice everything. Her fingers moved, almost of their own accord, finding the opening notes of the Rachmaninoff. The muscle memory was still there, preserved perfectly across timelines. Her hands knew this piece the way they knew how to sign her name. She played the first movement, then the second. By the time she reached the third, other students had gathered in the doorway, drawn by the music. Maya played through them, played past them, played until the final chord dissolved into silence. "Okay," Rebecca said into the quiet. You're definitely ready for Monday." But Maya wasn't thinking about Monday. She was thinking about the way the music had felt, both exactly like she remembered and completely different. 4 years ago, or yesterday, depending on perspective, she'd played this piece with the confidence of someone who didn't know what loss felt like. Now she played it with the weight of everything she'd learned in the years between. The music was better for it, deeper, more alive. Maybe that was what came back with her. Not just the knowledge of what would happen, but the depth of experience that made her a better musician. Maybe she could use that. The day crawled past. Maya moved through classes like a ghost, half present, her mind always elsewhere. In AP English, Mrs. Rodriguez assigned an essay on the American dream and whether it was still achievable. Maya almost laughed. The American dream! She'd achieved it and lost it and was now trying to achieve it again, armed with the knowledge that achievement and loss were sometimes the same thing. At lunch, she sat in the cafeteria and watched her classmates with the bizarre detachment of someone who knew what would happen to them. There was Jake Morrison, who would get a full ride to Stanford and drop out sophomore year to start a tech company. There was Ashley Chen, who would become a doctor like her parents wanted, even though she dreamed of being a writer. There was Marcus Webb, who would die in a car accident their freshman year of college, and Maya had to look away from him because the grief was too fresh, even though it hadn't happened yet. Wouldn't happen for months. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Got your note? Appointment is scheduled for next Friday. Everything okay?" Next Friday, April 2nd, 3 days before the collapse in the original timeline. Maya typed back, "Everything's fine. Just want you to get a checkup. It's been a while." The lie sat heavy on her chest. Nothing was fine. Everything was the opposite of fine. But she couldn't exactly text, "Hey mom, I'm from the future and you have cancer and we need to catch it early." The weekend passed in a strange fugue state. Maya practiced Rachmaninoff until her fingers ached, but she also made excuses to be around her mother, helping with groceries, offering to cook dinner, just existing in the same space. She was trying to memorize this version of her mother, healthy and whole, before everything changed. Sunday night, her mother made her favorite, lemon chicken with roasted vegetables. Then they ate at the kitchen table, just the two of them like always. Maya's father had left when she was 3, a fact that was just background noise to her life. It had always been her and her mom, 2 against the world. "You've been quiet lately?" her mother said, passing the vegetables. "Everything okay with the audition stuff?" "The scout's coming back Monday." "That's good, right? Second chance?" Maya pushed chicken around her plate. "Yeah, second chance." Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You're going to be amazing, you always are. And then you're going to go to that fancy music school and become famous and forget all about your old mom." "I could never forget you," Maya said, and meant it with an intensity that made her mother blink. "Well, good. Because I'm planning to embarrass you at all your future concerts." They both laughed, but Maya's chest felt tight. In the original timeline, her mother had never made it to a single concert. She'd been too sick, too weak, too busy just trying to survive. Monday arrived like a verdict. Maya wore her black dress, the one she wore to recitals, professional without being formal. She'd forgotten she owned this dress. In 2025, it had been buried in the back of a closet somewhere, outgrown and out of style. But here now, it fit perfectly. The Berkeley Scout was already in Miss Chen's office when Maya arrived. David Okonkwo stood when she entered. Same blazer, same portfolio, same warm smile. "Maya," he said, "good to see you again? Feeling better?" "Much. Thank you for coming back. Miss Chen spoke very highly of your work." "I'm looking forward to hearing you play." This time, Maya didn't run. She walked to the upright piano in the corner, sat down, adjusted the bench. The familiar weight of the keys under her fingers felt like coming home. She played. She played the Rachmaninoff like she'd lived it because she had. She played it with the weight of 4 years of regret and the desperate hope of second chances. She played it the way she'd learned to play during those midnight hours after her Morrison shifts, when her mother was sleeping and the apartment was quiet and music was the only thing that made sense. When she finished, the room was silent. David was writing something in his portfolio. Miss Chen had her hand over her mouth. "That was..." David set down his pen. "That was exceptional, Maya. I've heard a lot of students play this piece. But you brought something different to it. Maturity, depth. Like you've lived more than your years would suggest." If only he knew. "Thank you," Maya said. "I'm going to recommend you for our full scholarship program. You should receive notification in the next few weeks." He stood, extended his hand. "I think you're going to do very well at Berkeley." Maya shook his hand, smiled, said all the appropriate things. But inside, she was already thinking ahead. The scholarship would come, and this time, she would figure out how to keep it. The week that followed felt like walking a tightrope. Maya went to classes, practiced piano, lived her 18-year-old life while carrying 23 years of memory. She watched the calendar tick toward April 5th like watching a bomb countdown. On Friday, April 2nd, then her mother went to her doctor's appointment. Maya had offered to go with her, but her mother had waved her off. "It's just a checkup, honey. I'll be fine." Maya spent the afternoon in the practice room, unable to focus, running through scales mechanically while her phone sat on the piano, silent. Rebecca came in around 4. "You're still here? It's Friday. Don't you have a life?" "Not really," Maya said, which was more honest than Rebecca realized. "Well, I'm going to Julia's party tonight. You should come. Celebrate the fact that you're definitely getting into Berkeley." Julia's party. Maya had gone to this party in the original timeline. She'd gotten drunk on cheap vodka and made out with Ben Rodriguez, and woken up the next morning with a headache and fuzzy memories. It had felt important then, like crossing some invisible threshold into adulthood. Now it just seemed exhausting. "Maybe," she told Rebecca, knowing she wouldn't go. Her phone rang at 5:47 p.m. Her mother. Maya answered before the first ring finished. "Hello?" "Hey, sweetheart." Her mother's voice sounded normal, calm. "I'm just leaving the doctor's office. Can you be home for dinner? I want to talk to you about something." Maya's heart stopped. Is everything okay? We'll talk when I get home. Love you. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone. The words, want to talk to you about something, echoed in her head. That could mean anything. That could mean nothing. That could mean... She grabbed her bag and ran. The bike ride home took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Maya's mind spiraled through every possibility. Maybe they'd found something. Maybe the early screening had caught it. Maybe she'd successfully changed the timeline. Or maybe she'd made it worse. Maybe by pushing for the appointment, she'd caused the doctors to look harder, to find something that wouldn't have been found until later, to... She was spiraling. She knew she was spiraling. But she couldn't stop. Her mother's car was in the driveway when Maya arrived. The house lights were on. Everything looked normal, peaceful, exactly as it should be. Maya let herself in. Mom? In the kitchen. Her mother was making pasta, just regular spaghetti with marinara, nothing fancy. She looked up when Maya entered, and her expression was unreadable. Sit down, honey. Maya sat. Her hands were shaking. Her mother turned off the stove, wiped her hands on a dish towel, and sat across from Maya at the kitchen table. This table where they'd eaten countless meals, where Maya had done homework and practiced music theory and lived her entire childhood. So, her mother said, I went to Dr. Patterson like you asked. And she was confused why I was there, since I'd just had a checkup 6 months ago and everything was fine. Maya's heart was hammering. But you did the appointment? I did. I told her you'd been worried about me, that I'd been feeling tired lately. Her mother paused. Which isn't entirely untrue. The double shifts have been rough. Did she run any tests? She did a basic workup. Blood panel, that sort of thing. Said everything looked good? Her mother reached across the table and took Maya's hand. Baby, where is this coming from? Are you worried about something specific? Maya looked at her mother's hand holding hers. Warm, alive, healthy. The same hand that had held hers through childhood, scraped knees, and high school heartbreaks, and would have held hers through cancer treatment if Maya had let it. I just want you to be okay, Maya said. I am okay. I'm perfectly healthy. Dr. Patterson said so. But that was the problem. Dr. Patterson would say that. The cancer was there. Maya knew it was there, but it hadn't grown large enough to show up on basic tests yet. It was just cells, multiplying silently, a ticking time bomb that wouldn't explode for 3 more days. Did you ask about... Maya struggled with how to phrase this. Like additional screening? More comprehensive tests? Her mother frowned. Why would I, Maya? What's going on? Is something wrong? Everything was wrong. Maya was 23 and 18 simultaneously, living in a past she'd already survived, trying to prevent a future she'd already lived. And she couldn't tell her mother any of it because who would believe that their teenage daughter had traveled through time? I just have a feeling, Maya said finally. A bad feeling. A feeling about what? About your health. I think you should get more tests. Comprehensive screening? Soon. Her mother studied her for a long moment. Maya, is this about your grandmother? Maya's grandmother had died of breast cancer when Maya was 7. She barely remembered the woman, just fragments. The smell of her perfume, the sound of her laugh, the way she'd sung while cooking. Maybe, Maya said, seizing on the explanation. I've just been thinking about her lately, about how it can run in families. And I want you to be careful. Her mother's expression softened. Oh, honey, I know that was scary, but I get my mammograms regularly. Dr. Patterson keeps track of all that. I promise I'm being careful. What about other types of cancer? What about them? I think you should get screened, comprehensively. Maya, those tests are expensive. Insurance doesn't cover them unless there's a reason. Her mother squeezed her hand. I appreciate you worrying about me. It's sweet. But I'm fine. Dr. Patterson would tell me if there was something to be concerned about. But Dr. Patterson wouldn't tell her, not until April 5th, when her mother collapsed and they ran emergency tests and found the tumor that had been growing silently for months, maybe years. So Maya pulled her hand back. What if I paid for it? Paid for what? The screening, the tests, whatever it costs. Her mother laughed, not unkindly. With what money, baby? You're 18. I could get a job, Maya... Her mother's voice was gentle but firm. You don't need to take care of me. That's my job. You just focus on school and your music and getting into Berkeley. Let me worry about the rest. Let me worry about the rest. Those same words her mother would say later, when the diagnosis came, when the bills started piling up, when everything fell apart. Let me worry about it. I'll be fine. You focus on school. But Maya had focused on school, and it hadn't mattered. She'd still lost her scholarship. She'd still spent 4 years watching her mother suffer while she slung drinks and counted pennies and dreamed of a life that might have been. "Promise me you'll think about it," Maya said. "The screening. Please." Her mother sighed. "I'll think about it. But right now I'm going to make us dinner, and you're going to tell me about this party Rebecca invited you to." They ate spaghetti and talked about normal things. School, the spring concert, whether Maya needed a new dress for graduation. Her mother laughed and teased and was so vibrantly alive that it physically hurt to look at her, knowing what was coming. After dinner, Maya went to her room and pulled out her laptop. So she searched early cancer screening and comprehensive diagnostic tests, and how to convince someone to get medical care when they won't listen. The internet was less helpful than she'd hoped. She thought about the original timeline, about April 5th. Her mother had been at the grocery store. She'd been reaching for something. Maya couldn't remember what. Maybe oranges, maybe apples. And she'd just collapsed. Ambulance, hospital, tests, tumor. What if Maya could prevent her from going to the store? Keep her home that day? Would that change anything, or would fate find another way? Her phone buzzed. Rebecca. "You coming to Julia's? Everyone's asking about you." Maya typed back, "Not tonight. Rain check?" She needed to think. She needed a plan. Because her mother wasn't going to get the screening voluntarily, and Maya couldn't exactly explain why she was so certain it was necessary. She pulled up her bank account on her phone. She had $347.62 saved from birthday gifts and the occasional babysitting job. Comprehensive cancer screening costs thousands. Even if she got a job, even if she got 3 jobs, she couldn't afford it in time. Unless... The thought struck her like lightning. The Berkeley scholarship would be announced in 2 weeks. Full ride, room and board included. But it also came with a $5,000 signing bonus, meant to help with moving expenses and books. In the original timeline, Maya had never seen that money. She'd turned down the scholarship before the check arrived. But what if she accepted it? Took the signing bonus, used it to pay for her mother's screening, and then what? Turned down the scholarship anyway? Keep it? Maya's head spun. This was the problem with time travel. With second chances, every choice branched into infinite possibilities, and she couldn't see all the consequences. She looked at the calendar on her phone. April 2nd, 3 days until the collapse, 2 weeks until the scholarship announcement. She was running out of time. Saturday morning, Maya woke up with a plan. It wasn't a good plan, but it was a plan. She needed money, fast, and she needed a way to convince her mother to get screened without revealing that she had knowledge of the future. The solution came to her while she was brushing her teeth, staring at her 18-year-old reflection in the mirror. Music. The answer was always music. She'd been good before, good enough to get the Berkeley scholarship, good enough to win competitions. But she'd also spent 4 years getting better. 4 years of experience that no other 18-year-old had. 4 years of pain and loss and life that had deepened her playing in ways that technical skill alone never could. She could use that. Maya pulled out her phone and searched for local performance opportunities. Open mic nights, coffee shop gigs, restaurant background music, anything that paid. In the original timeline, she'd been too focused on school and competitions to pursue paid performances. But now she had experience. She knew what worked. She knew how to play for an audience. She found a coffee shop in downtown Denver that hosted Friday Night Live music. $100 per show, plus tips. She sent an email with a recording. Thank God for the recording from her state finals performance that was still on her laptop, and got a response within an hour. "Love your sound. Can you start this Friday?" Yes, she could start this Friday. Next, she searched for private piano students. She'd never taught before, but she had 4 years of additional experience now. Surely that counted for something. She posted ads on 3 different websites. Experienced pianist offering lessons, competition-level instruction, $30/hour. By noon, she had 3 inquiries. By evening, she had her first student booked for Monday afternoon. It wasn't enough. It wouldn't be enough to pay for comprehensive screening before April 5th. But it was something. It was action instead of helplessness. Sunday, Maya practiced for 8 hours straight. Not the Rachmaninoff, she had that memorized down to the muscle memory, but popular songs, jazz standards, the kind of music that would work in a coffee shop. She played Autumn Leaves and Fly Me to the Moon, and The Nearness of You. Songs she'd learned over the past 4 years, working at Morrison's, listening to the music they piped through the speakers while she served drinks to people who didn't notice she existed. She played until her fingers cramped, until her mother knocked on the door and told her to take a break before the neighbors complained. Monday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. 3 days until April 5th, 3 days until her mother would collapse, unless Maya could find a way to stop it. Her first piano student was a 10-year-old named Emma, whose parents wanted her to learn classical technique. Maya taught her scales and basic theory, watching the girl's small fingers stumble over the keys, and felt the surreal disconnect of being 18 and 23, and neither and both. After the lesson, Emma's mother handed her $30 in cash. Same time next week? Absolutely, Maya said, pocketing the money that felt simultaneously substantial and completely inadequate. Tuesday, Maya had 2 more students and a rehearsal at the coffee shop. She played through her set list for the owner, a woman named Carmen with silver hair and more tattoos than seemed physically possible. "You're good," Carmen said when Maya finished. "Like, really good. Where have you been hiding?" "Just doing my own thing," Maya said, which wasn't technically a lie. "Well, Friday nights are usually dead, but with you, I think we might actually get some traffic. Play like that, and your tips could be better than your base pay." Tips. Maya hadn't thought about tips. Every dollar counted. Every dollar was one more dollar toward the screening her mother needed, but wouldn't get. Wednesday night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her mother's soft snoring through the wall. Tomorrow was April 4th, the day before. The day before everything changed. She could call in a bomb threat to the grocery store. She could fake a family emergency. She could… what? What could she do that wouldn't seem completely insane? At 2 a.m., she got up and went to her mother's room. She stood in the doorway, watching her sleep. In the dim light from the hallway, her mother looked peaceful, healthy. So completely unaware that her body was betraying her, that cells were dividing and spreading and building toward catastrophe. Maya thought about waking her up, telling her everything. But what would she say? "Mom, I'm from the future and you have cancer." That was a fast track to a psych evaluation, not a doctor's appointment. She went back to her room and did the only thing that made sense. She sat at her keyboard, the small electric one she used for practice when the real piano would be too loud, and she played. Soft enough not to wake her mother, but loud enough to quiet her own mind. She played everything she knew. Everything she'd learned, everything she'd felt over the past 4 years of loss and regret and desperate determination. She played until the sky outside started to lighten, until she heard her mother's alarm go off. Until it was April 4th, and she was out of time. Her mother came out of her bedroom already dressed in her scrubs. "You're up early?" "Couldn't sleep," Maya said. "Big day?" "Every day was big when you were trying to prevent a future you'd already lived." Something like that. Her mother poured coffee, kissed Maya's forehead, grabbed her keys. "I'll be home around 6. We can order Chinese for dinner." "Mom, wait." Her mother turned, eyebrows raised. Maya opened her mouth to say something. What? She wasn't sure. "Don't go to the grocery store tomorrow. Stay home. Please." But the words stuck in her throat because how could she explain? "I love you," she said instead. Her mother smiled, soft and warm. "Love you too, baby. See you tonight." The door closed. The car started. Maya watched through the window as her mother backed out of the driveway and drove away, heading to a shift at the hospital where she'd spend the day taking care of other people, completely unaware that tomorrow her own body would require emergency care. Maya looked at the calendar on her phone. April 4th. 1 day. She had 1 day to figure out how to change everything. Maya spent April 4th in a state of controlled panic. She went to school because not going would raise questions, but she absorbed nothing from her classes. Her mind was elsewhere, running through scenarios, discarding options, searching desperately for a solution that didn't exist. At lunch, Rebecca cornered her in the cafeteria. "Okay, seriously, what is wrong with you? You've been weird for like 2 weeks now." "Define weird," Maya said, pushing food around her tray. Distracted, anxious. You look like you haven't slept in days, and you're teaching piano lessons now? Since when do you have time for that?" "I need the money." For what? College? You're getting a full ride to Berkeley. Maya set down her fork. What if I don't go to Berkeley? Rebecca stared at her. Are you having a stroke? Should I call someone? I'm serious. What if I took a gap year, stayed here, worked, saved money? Why would you do that? You've been working toward this for years. This is your dream. Was it, though? Had it ever really been Maya's dream? Or had it just been the thing she was good at, the path that made sense? And even if it had been her dream once, could she pursue it knowing what it would cost? These were the questions that had kept her up at night for 4 years. And now, gifted with a second chance, she still didn't have answers. I'm just thinking about options, Maya said. Your option is to go to Berkeley and become amazing and get out of here, Rebecca said firmly. Don't overthink this. But overthinking was all Maya could do. She thought about it through the rest of lunch, through afternoon classes, through the bike ride home. She thought about tomorrow, April 5th, and what she could do to prevent it. She could tell her mother not to go to the store, but her mother would just go another day, and maybe she'd collapse then, and Maya would have just delayed the inevitable. She could somehow cause a car accident. Nothing serious, just enough to keep her mother home. But that was insane. That was the kind of thing you read about in cautionary tales about people who tried to change fate. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. Hello? Maya Lynn. The voice was professional, female. This is Jennifer from Dr. Patterson's office. I'm calling because your mother's blood work came back, and there's something we'd like to follow up on. Maya's heart stopped. What? Some of her markers were slightly elevated. It's probably nothing, but Dr. Patterson would like to schedule some additional screening. Could you have your mother call us? What kind of markers? I'm not authorized to share specific medical details with you, but if you could have her call us as soon as possible, we'd appreciate it. Okay, yes, I'll tell her. Maya hung up and stared at her phone. The blood work, the appointment she'd pushed for. They'd found something. This was what she'd wanted, wasn't it? Early detection, catching it before the collapse. But somehow hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that memory hadn't. Her mother was sick. Her mother had been sick this whole time, in both timelines, and Maya knowing about it didn't change that fundamental fact. She called her mother straight to voicemail. Hey Mom, I need you to call Dr. Patterson's office as soon as you get this. It's important. Call me back. The next 3 hours were agony. Maya paced her room, tried to practice piano, gave up, paced some more. Her mother was at work, probably with her phone in a locker, unreachable. At 6:15, her mother walked through the door carrying takeout bags. Chinese is here. I got your favorite. You need to call Dr. Patterson's office, Maya interrupted. Her mother set down the bags. What? Why? They called me about your blood work. They said some markers were elevated and they want to do more screening. When did they call? This afternoon. I've been trying to reach you. Her mother pulled out her phone, saw the missed calls from both Maya and the doctor's office. Her expression shifted, just slightly, a flicker of concern quickly masked by calm practicality. I'm sure it's fine, she said. Probably just a lab error. Those happen all the time. Can you call them back, please? Her mother looked at her, really looked at her, and Maya wondered what she saw. An anxious teenager, or something else, something older and more desperate? Okay, her mother said finally. I'll call them now. She went into the other room. Maya stood in the kitchen, surrounded by takeout containers, listening to the muffled sound of her mother's voice through the wall. She couldn't make out words, just tone. Questioning, then serious, then quiet. When her mother came back, her face was carefully neutral. They want me to come in tomorrow for additional tests, some kind of imaging study. They had a cancellation so they can fit me in at 10 a.m. Tomorrow, April 5th, the day everything had changed in the original timeline. That's good, Maya said. That's good that they can see you so soon. It's probably nothing, Maya. But you'll go. I'll go. Her mother started unpacking the Chinese food with forced cheerfulness. Now can we eat? I'm starving and this is getting cold. They ate lo mein and orange chicken, and her mother talked about her shift and a difficult patient and the new resident who couldn't start an IV to save his life. Normal conversation, normal evening. Except Maya couldn't taste the food, couldn't focus on the words, couldn't stop thinking about tomorrow. After dinner, she went to her room and pulled out her keyboard. She played quietly, mechanically, running through the set list for Friday's coffee shop gig. She'd still do it. She'd still earn the money. Because even if they caught the cancer early, even if the screening prevented the collapse, there would still be treatment. There would still be bills. She played until her mother knocked on the door and told her it was late. She should sleep. Maya nodded, turned off the keyboard, lay down fully clothed on top of her covers. She didn't sleep. At 5 a.m., she heard her mother moving around. Maya got up, went to the kitchen. Her mother was making coffee, already dressed. "You're up early," her mother said. "I'm coming with you." "Maya, you see, you have school." "I'll skip. This is more important." Her mother opened her mouth to argue, then seemed to think better of it. "Okay, thank you." They drove to the medical center in silence. Maya watched the familiar streets pass by, the same streets she'd traveled in the original timeline, except then it had been in an ambulance, her mother unconscious in the back, Maya riding along because she was next of kin and the only person they could reach. This time, her mother was conscious, alert. They were going to the hospital for screening, not emergency treatment. They were ahead of the crisis. The waiting room smelled like industrial cleaner and fear. Maya sat next to her mother, holding her hand, while they waited for the tech to call her back for the CT scan. "Maya," her mother said quietly, "Wait, how did you know?" "Know what?" "That something was wrong. You've been on edge about this for weeks, since before I even had the appointment." Maya looked at their joined hands. "I just had a feeling." "A feeling?" "Yeah," her mother studied her. "Sometimes I think you're older than you seem. Like you've lived more than 18 years. If only she knew. They called her mother back. Maya waited in the room with old magazines and a TV playing the news on mute. She watched the minutes tick by on the wall clock, each one feeling like an hour, each hour like a lifetime. When her mother finally came out, she looked tired, but okay. They did the scan. Dr. Patterson will review the results and call us this afternoon. And then we'll know more." Her mother squeezed her shoulder. "Try not to worry. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. We'll handle it. Just like they'd handled it in the original timeline. Except this time, maybe handling it wouldn't cost Maya her future." They went home. Maya's mother insisted she go to school. She'd already missed the morning, but she could make afternoon classes. Maya went because arguing seemed more exhausting than complying. She walked through the hallways of Lincoln High like a ghost. In her afternoon classes, teachers talked about upcoming finals, about college plans, about the future like it was a straight line from here to there. Maya knew better. The future was a branching tree with infinite possibilities, and she was trying to climb the right branch while still unsure what right even meant. At 2:30, her phone rang. Her mother. "They found something," her mother said without preamble. "A mass. They want to do a biopsy." Maya closed her eyes. This was it. This was the moment the future diverged from the past. In the original timeline, they'd found the tumor after her mother collapsed. Stage 3. Aggressive, requiring immediate aggressive treatment. "When?" Maya asked. "Tomorrow morning. They're moving fast because of where it is and how it looks on the scan." "What does that mean?" Her mother's voice was steady, but Maya could hear the fear underneath. "It means they're concerned, but it also means we caught it, whatever it is, thanks to you and your feeling. I'll come to the biopsy. You have school." "I'll skip." "Maya, I'm coming, Mom. That's not negotiable." A pause. Then, "Okay, thank you." Maya hung up and stood in the bathroom where she'd taken the call, staring at her reflection. This face, these eyes. So this girl who had lived 4 years that hadn't happened yet and was trying desperately to make sure they never would. She thought about the Berkeley scholarship, about the letter that would arrive in 10 days. She thought about the signing bonus, about how she'd planned to use it for her mother's treatment. But if they'd caught the cancer early enough, maybe the treatment would be less aggressive. Maybe the bills wouldn't be as catastrophic. Maybe she could have both, her mother's health and her own future, or maybe she was deluding herself, thinking you could cheat fate just because you'd seen how the story ended. The biopsy confirmed what they'd feared, cancer. But, and this was the crucial but, stage 1, caught early, treatable. "The prognosis is very good," the oncologist said. She was a small woman with gentle hands and steel in her voice. Her name was Dr. Reyes, and she wasn't the oncologist from the original timeline. In that version, her mother had been so advanced by the time of diagnosis that she'd needed the specialist, the one who handled the worst cases. This time, they were in a different office, a better timeline. "We'll want to start treatment soon," Dr. Reyes continued. "Surgery first, to remove the tumor, followed by a short course of chemotherapy to make sure we got everything." "How short?" Maya's mother asked. 3 to 4 months. Compared to more advanced cases, it's a relatively straightforward protocol. Relatively straightforward. Those words echoed in Maya's head. In the original timeline, her mother's treatment had lasted a year and a half. Surgery, chemo, radiation. Oh, more chemo when the first round didn't get everything. 3 to 4 months was a gift. But it was still 3 to 4 months of poison dripping into her mother's veins. 3 to 4 months of nausea and exhaustion and hair loss. 3 to 4 months of medical bills. "What about cost?" Maya heard herself ask. Dr. Reyes looked at her, then at her mother. "Your insurance should cover most of it. There will be some out-of-pocket costs, but we have financial counselors who can help you navigate that." Most of it. Some out-of-pocket costs. Vague medical terms that would translate into very specific financial devastation. In the original timeline, some out-of-pocket costs had meant $200,000. The insurance had covered 70%, which sounded generous until you did the math. But that was stage 3 treatment. This was stage 1. The bills would be smaller, manageable even. Maya hoped. Her mother scheduled the surgery for the following week. They walked out of the medical center into bright spring sunshine that felt obscene given the circumstances. "I'm going to be okay," her mother said as they got in the car. "You know that, right? Stage 1, they said. We caught it early." "I know. Thanks to you." Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. "I don't know how you knew, but thank you for pushing me to get screened." "I just had a feeling," Maya said for what felt like the 100th time. "Some feeling." Her mother started the car. "My 18-year-old daughter saves my life with a hunch." Saves my life. The words hit Maya like a physical blow, because in the original timeline, she hadn't saved her mother's life. Her mother had survived, technically, but she'd lost everything else. Her job, her house, her vitality. She'd survived, but she hadn't lived. This time could be different. This time would be different. Maya made herself believe it. The Berkeley acceptance letter arrived on April 15th, exactly 2 weeks after the biopsy. It came in a thick cream envelope, just like Maya remembered, containing all the same information. Full scholarship, room and board, and a $5,000 signing bonus. She sat at the kitchen table, holding the letter, feeling the weight of decisions branching infinitely in all directions. Her mother's surgery was scheduled for April 20th. After that would come recovery, then chemo, then more recovery. 3 to 4 months, Dr. Reyes had said. Classes at Berkeley started in September, 5 months from now. Maya could start at Berkeley on schedule. Her mother would be through most of her treatment by then. The signing bonus could help with medical bills. Everything could work out. Or it could all fall apart. What if her mother had complications? What if the treatment didn't work? What if Maya left for Boston and something happened and she was too far away to help? She thought about the original timeline, about turning down the scholarship, about spending 4 years serving drinks and watching her dreams collect dust. She'd resented it. She'd loved her mother and taken care of her without question. But she'd resented it too. In quiet moments, she felt guilty about later. Could she live with that resentment again? Could she live with herself if she chose differently? Her phone buzzed. Rebecca. "Did you get in?" Maya typed back, "Yes." Immediate response. "Celebration time." "I'm coming over." Rebecca arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of sparkling cider and enough enthusiasm to power a small city. She hugged Maya, screamed, danced around the kitchen. "I knew it! I knew you'd get it! Full ride?" "Full ride," Maya confirmed. "Plus that signing bonus thing, right? The $5,000? "Yeah," Rebecca popped the cider. "You're going to be amazing. You're going to be famous. I'm going to say I knew you when." Maya accepted the glass Rebecca poured for her. The bubbles rose to the surface and burst. Tiny deaths, constant renewal. "My mom has cancer," Maya heard herself say. Rebecca's celebration froze. "What?" "They found it last week. Stage 1. She's having surgery on Monday." "Oh my God, Maya. Why didn't you tell me?" "I'm telling you now." Rebecca set down her glass and pulled Maya into a hug. Is she going to be okay?" "They think so. They caught it early." "How early?" "Early enough." They sat at the kitchen table. The celebration mood evaporated. Rebecca asked questions. What kind of cancer? What was the treatment plan? How was Maya holding up? Maya answered mechanically, her mind elsewhere. Finally, Rebecca said, "You're still going to Berkeley, right?" "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know? This is what you've been working toward." "My mom needs me." "Your mom has insurance and doctors and treatment. What she needs is for you to live your life." Maya almost laughed. That's exactly what her mother would say. That's exactly what her mother had said in the original timeline when Maya had told her she wasn't taking the scholarship. "Don't give up your dreams for me. I'll be fine." But she hadn't been fine. And Maya hadn't been fine. Nobody had been fine. "I need to think about it," Maya said. "There's nothing to think about. You go to Berkeley, your mom gets better. Everyone wins." If only it were that simple. Maya's first coffee shop performance was that Friday night. She almost canceled. Her mind was too scattered, her heart too heavy. But she needed the money, and she'd made a commitment. So she went. Carmen's Coffee House was exactly the kind of place that Maya had spent time in during her 20s in the original timeline. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, the smell of espresso and capitalism. It was packed for a Friday night, which surprised her until she remembered this was before the pandemic, before the world shut down and then reopened, but different. She sat up at the upright piano in the corner. But not a great instrument, slightly out of tune, one key that stuck, but playable. Carmen introduced her. "Please welcome Maya Lin, making her debut performance here tonight." Spattering of polite applause. Maya sat down, adjusted the bench, let her fingers find the keys. She'd planned to play her set list, jazz standards, popular songs, safe choices. But when her hands touched the piano, they moved towards something else. Something deeper. She played an original piece, not one she'd written. She'd never written music before, but one that flowed out of her in the moment, born from 4 years of loss and regret and desperate hope for second chances. She played the shape of grief, the texture of love, the color of decisions that broke you in half trying to choose. The coffee shop went quiet. Maya played for 20 minutes without stopping. Without thinking, just feeling. When she finished, there was a moment of absolute silence. Then applause. Not polite applause, real applause. She played 3 more pieces, more originals, pulling them from somewhere deep inside where she'd apparently been storing them for years. Songs about hospital waiting rooms and unpaid bills, and the sound of your mother crying when she thinks you can't hear. Songs about second chances and impossible choices, and the weight of loving someone more than you love your own future. When she finished her set, people were standing. Carmen found her during her break. "Where have you been? I don't even have words. That was incredible." "Thanks," Maya said, still dazed. "I want you back next week, and the week after. Hell, no, I want you here every Friday for the rest of your life." Maya almost said she'd be at Berkeley in September, but caught herself. Would she? She still didn't know. Her tip jar was full, bills stuffed in haphazardly, some folded, some not. Maya counted it later, $247. Combined with her $100 base pay, she'd made nearly $350 for 2 hours of work. She stared at the money in her hands. This was what she was good at. Not just playing piano, but playing in a way that made people feel things. Playing in a way that made them stop scrolling their phones and actually listen. She'd learned this skill over 4 years of loss, and now she could use it. Over the next week, Maya played 2 more coffee shops, booked 5 piano students, and taught 3 of her existing students extra lessons. By the time her mother's surgery rolled around, say Maya had $1,200 in cash hidden in a shoebox under her bed. It wasn't enough to pay for cancer treatment, but it was something. It was proof she could earn money with music even without a fancy degree. The surgery went well. Her mother came home with stitches and instructions to rest. Maya took the week off from school to take care of her, bringing her water, making her soup, helping her to the bathroom when she was too weak to walk alone. It was like a preview of the original timeline, except compressed and less desperate. Her mother was weak, but not dying. Uncomfortable, but not in agony. "You should be at school," her mother said on the 3rd day. "School can wait." "Maya, you're missing too much. Finals are coming." "I'll catch up," her mother studied her. "You're not thinking of turning down Berkeley." Are you?" "I haven't decided. There's nothing to decide. You're going. What if you need me?" "I'll need you more if you give up your dreams for me." Her mother reached for Maya's hand. "Baby, I'm going to be fine. The surgery went well. The doctors are optimistic, and you've already done so much by pushing me to get screened early. But the treatment will be manageable. We have insurance, we have savings, and we have you, about to go off and become a famous musician." Her mother squeezed her hand. "Don't let this derail your life." But it had already derailed Maya's life. In the original timeline, it had derailed everything. And even now, knowing they'd caught it early, Maya couldn't shake the fear that accepting Berkeley meant abandoning her mother. "I'll think about it," Maya said. "You better think fast. Don't you have to accept the scholarship by next week?" May 1st. That was the deadline. 2 weeks away. Maya had 2 weeks to decide between her past and her future, between the life she'd lived and the life she might still have. She spent those 2 weeks in a state of controlled chaos. She went to school, caught up on work she'd missed, helped her mother recover. She played coffee shop gigs 4 nights a week, taught piano lessons every afternoon. She saved every dollar, building a safety net that felt simultaneously essential and pointless. Her mother started chemotherapy. The first session left her exhausted, but not incapacitated. Nothing like the original timeline where she'd been so sick she couldn't leave bed for days. "See," her mother said. "Manageable." Manageable. Maya wanted to believe it. On April 30th, the night before the scholarship deadline, Maya sat at her desk with the acceptance letter in front of her. All she had to do was sign it, scan it, email it back. Accept the future that was being offered. Her phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello? Is this Maya Lin?" A man's voice, professional. "Yes?" "This is Marcus Chen from Portland Music Productions. I was at your show last Friday at Carmen's. I recorded part of your set. Hope you don't mind. And I'd like to talk to you about representation." Maya's brain stalled. "I'm sorry, what?" "Artist representation. Management. I work with emerging musicians, and I think you've got something really special. That last piece you played, the original one, that's the kind of music people are desperate for right now. Raw, emotional, authentic." "I'm 18, Maya heard herself say. "Even better. You've got your whole career ahead of you. Look, I know this is out of the blue, but I'd love to meet with you. Talk about what we could do together. No commitment, just a conversation." "I'm supposed to start at Berkeley in September." "Berkeley's great. Fantastic school. But let me ask you, do you want to learn music? Or do you want to make music? Because what you were doing last Friday, that's not something they can teach. That's something you already have." Maya looked at the acceptance letter on her desk, then at her calendar, showing all her booked gigs and piano lessons, then at the envelope from her mother's oncology center, bills already starting to arrive despite insurance. "When did you want to meet?" she asked. Marcus Chen's office was in a renovated warehouse downtown, the kind of space that screamed creative industry with its exposed beams and industrial lighting. Maya took the bus there on a Saturday morning, her mother's approval still ringing in her ears. "Just talk to him. Doesn't hurt to explore your options." Marcus was younger than she'd expected, maybe early 30s, with the kind of casual confidence that came from success in a competitive industry. He made her tea, showed her around the space where several other artists were working in soundproofed rooms, and then got straight to business. "I'm going to be honest with you," he said, pulling up a recording on his laptop. "This is you from last Friday." Maya watched herself on the screen, not from the audience perspective, but a better angle, professionally shot. Marcus had brought a real camera. This hadn't been a casual recording. "No, I've been scouting coffee shops for 6 months," Marcus continued, "looking for something different, something that could break through the noise. And then I heard you play that original piece about— What was it about?" Maya hesitated. "Loss, family, impossible choices." "You're 18 and you're playing like you've lived 40 years. Where does that come from?" If only she could tell him. "I just feel things deeply," she said instead. Marcus nodded like this made perfect sense. "Okay, here's what I'm thinking. You've got raw talent and emotional depth that can't be taught. What you need is production, marketing, and distribution. I can provide all of that. I'm not a pop star, I'm a classical pianist. You were a classical pianist when you walked in here, but that piece you played, that's not classical. That's contemporary art music. That's the kind of thing that could score films, sell out intimate venues, build a real following. I don't have any other original pieces." Yet, Marcus leaned forward. "Look, I'm not trying to talk you out of Berkeley. If that's your path, take it. But I'm offering you an alternative. Work with me for a year. We'll record an album of your original compositions. Yes, you'll write more, I can tell. We'll book you at bigger venues, better rooms. We'll build your name. And if at the end of that year you want to go to Berkeley, you can. Or you might find you don't need to. What about money? Standard contract. I cover recording costs, promotion, booking. We split revenue 70, 30 in your favor until we recoup my investment, then 80, 20. You'd keep all your coffee shop gigs and teaching income while we build your brand. Maya did the math in her head. 70% of revenue from venues and recording sales, plus coffee shop income, plus teaching. That could be real money. Maybe enough to help with her mother's medical bills. Maybe enough to not need the Berkeley signing bonus. I need to think about it, she said. Of course, but I need to know by Monday. I've got other artists I'm considering, and I can only take on one new client this quarter. Monday, the same day as the Berkeley deadline. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. Maya rode the bus home in a daze. In the original timeline, she'd never played coffee shops, never taught private lessons, never developed the original compositions that apparently had the power to attract industry attention. She'd been so focused on classical performance, on Berkeley, on the traditional path, that she'd never explored this alternative. But 4 years of working at Morrison's had taught her something about popular music, about what moved people in the moment. And 4 years of grief had given her something to say. Her mother was in the kitchen when Maya got home, looking tired but functional. The chemotherapy was working, but it was also exhausting. Still, she managed to smile when Maya walked in. How'd it go? Maya told her about the meeting, the offer, the deadline. Her mother listened, then said, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "If you didn't have to worry about me, what would you choose?" Maya thought about it. Really thought about it. I think I'd try the management thing. Just for a year. See what happens? Then do that. But Berkeley will still be there. You can defer for a year, or you can apply again later, or you can build a career without it. Her mother reached across the table. "Baby, you've been given a gift. This manager sees something in you. Don't throw that away because you think you have to follow some predetermined path. What about your medical bills? We'll figure it out. We always do." But they hadn't figured it out, not in the original timeline. The bills had crushed them, destroyed their savings, taken everything. "I can help," Maya said, "with the money from gigs and students. And if Marcus's plan works..." "No," her mother's voice was firm. "Your money is for you, for your future. I will not let you derail your life to pay my medical bills." "You might not have a choice," her mother sighed. "Maya, no, where's this coming from? This obsession with taking care of me? You're 18. You should be worried about prom and graduation, not cancer treatment costs." "Because I've already lived the version where I didn't help enough," Maya thought. "Because I've already watched you lose everything. Because I'm trying to save us both this time." But she couldn't say any of that. "I just want to help," she said instead. "You've already helped more than you know. By pushing me to get screened early, you probably saved my life. Now let me return the favor. Let me give you permission to live yours." Maya stared at her mother, this woman who had sacrificed everything in the original timeline and was preparing to do it again. Except this time, Maya had the power to prevent it. She had knowledge, resources, opportunities that her 18-year-old self hadn't possessed. "What if I deferred Berkeley for a year and worked with Marcus?" Maya said slowly. "I'd be here for your treatment, I'd be earning money, and I'd be building a career. Best of all worlds." "You'd be putting your education on hold. For a year, that's nothing." Her mother studied her. "You've really thought about this." "I have." "And it's what you want, not what you think I need?" Maya considered the question honestly. Did she want this? In the original timeline, she'd wanted Berkeley because it was the pinnacle, the validation, the escape from ordinary life. But she'd spent 4 years learning that ordinary life had its own value, its own music. "I think I want this," she said. "I think I need to know if I can make it on my own terms, without the fancy school and the prestigious degree. I need to know if my music is good enough to stand alone." Her mother smiled. "Your music is absolutely good enough. But okay, if this is what you want, do it. Defer Berkeley, work with Marcus, and if it doesn't work out, you'll have that safety net. Maya emailed Berkeley's admissions office that night, requesting to defer her enrollment for 1 year. They responded within a day. Approved. We look forward to welcoming you in fall 2022. Fall 2022. A year away. Enough time to try this experiment, to see if she could build something real. On Monday, she signed Marcus's contract and turned down the immediate Berkeley enrollment. Rebecca thought she was insane. You're giving up a full scholarship to Berkeley to play coffee shops and maybe record an album that might not even sell? I'm deferring, not giving up. And yes, this is because of your mom's cancer, isn't it? Partially, but also because I think this could be something real. Rebecca sighed. I hope you know what you're doing. Maya didn't know what she was doing, but that was okay. She hadn't known what she was doing in the original timeline either. And at least now she had the advantage of experience, even if that experience was technically from a future that would never happen. The next 3 months were a blur. Her mother went through chemotherapy, 3 more rounds spread across 12 weeks. She lost her hair, lost weight, had days where she couldn't get out of bed. But it wasn't the catastrophic devastation of the original timeline. The cancer was responding to treatment. The scans showed shrinkage. The doctors used words like excellent prognosis and very encouraging. Maya played coffee shops 4 nights a week, building a following. People started coming specifically to see her, not just for coffee and atmosphere. She learned which pieces worked for which crowds, how to read a room, when to play something challenging, and when to play something comforting. She taught piano to a growing roster of students. Word spread. Maya Lin was the teacher who actually made you better, who understood music on a level most teachers didn't. By June, she had 12 regular students and a waiting list. And she wrote. Original compositions that poured out of her like water from a broken dam. Though pieces about loss and love and second chances and the weight of knowing too much. Pieces that Marcus said were exactly what we need. They spent 2 weeks in a recording studio in July. Maya had never been in a professional studio before, at least not in this timeline. The original Maya would have been terrified, but this Maya had 4 years of additional life experience, including nights at Morrison's figuring out how to stay calm under pressure. The album came together fast. 10 original pieces, all piano-driven, all emotionally raw. Marcus brought in a small string section for 3 tracks, a cellist who made Maya's melodies soar in ways she hadn't imagined. They called the album Second Chances, which made Maya almost laugh at the private irony. It released in August, right as her mother finished her last chemotherapy session. The album didn't explode. It wasn't an overnight sensation, but it found an audience. Small, but devoted. Music blogs wrote about it. Film composers shared it. A director used one of her pieces in an independent film that premiered at Sundance, and people started booking her for venues beyond coffee shops. In September, when she would have started at Berkeley, Maya instead played her first sold-out show at the Bluebird Theater in Denver, 400 capacity. Every seat filled. Her mother came, wearing a wig and looking tired but present. She sat in the front row, and when Maya played the final piece, the one she'd played that first night at Carmen's, the one about impossible choices, her mother cried. Backstage afterward, Marcus found her. That was perfect, exactly what we needed. I've got interest from venues in Portland, Seattle, and San Francisco, and there's a film score opportunity I want to talk to you about. A film score. Independent feature? Director heard your album and wants you to compose the music. It doesn't pay huge, but it's exposure and it's a credit. Maya thought about her freshman year at Berkeley and the alternate timeline that would never happen. She'd be in theory classes, ensemble rehearsals, practice rooms, learning for masters, following a curriculum designed to create professional musicians. Instead, she was here, creating a professional music career through sheer force of will and the accumulated experience of a life she'd already lived. I'll do it, she said. By December, Maya had played 26 shows across 4 states. The album had sold 15,000 copies. Not platinum, but respectable for an unknown artist. The film score was finished and had premiered at 3 festivals, and she'd earned $67,000 from performances, teaching, and royalties. She used $20,000 of it to pay off her mother's remaining medical bills. The rest went into savings, a safety net against future uncertainty. Her mother was cancer-free. The scans in November showed no evidence of disease. Dr. Reyes used words like complete response and remission. In the original timeline, her mother had been in the middle of brutal treatment at this point, losing battles with her own body while medical bills mounted like prison walls. In this timeline, her mother was back at work part-time, rebuilding her strength, talking about the future like it was something that would actually arrive. "I'm proud of you," her mother said one night over dinner. Oh, they were eating Thai food. Her mother's appetite had finally returned, and planning Maya's upcoming tour. Not just for the music, though that's incredible, but for trusting your instincts, for choosing a different path. "I had a good teacher," Maya said. "Oh, who?" "You," Maya thought. "In a life you'll never remember, you taught me about sacrifice and resilience and loving someone more than your own dreams. You taught me by example what it costs to survive." "Just someone wise," Maya said aloud. Her phone buzzed. An email from Marcus. "Call me, big news." Maya excused herself and called him back. "You're not going to believe this," Marcus said without preamble. "I got a call from the programmers at Madison Square Garden. They're doing this Emerging Artists Showcase in June. 4 acts, 10,000 capacity venue. They want you." Maya's world tilted. "Madison Square Garden? I know it sounds crazy, but your album has been making waves in the right circles, and the film you scored just won the Audience Award at Tribeca. You're hot right now, and they want to capitalize on it." Madison Square Garden, one of the most famous venues in the world, where legends performed, where, in another life, Maya had never even dreamed of performing. "It's not a full headlining show," Marcus clarified. "You'd have a 30-minute set as part of the showcase, but it's the Garden. This is the kind of opportunity that changes careers." "When do I need to decide?" "You don't. I already said yes on your behalf. The showcase is June 15th, 2022. We have 6 months to prepare." Maya leaned against the wall, her mind spinning. In the original timeline, June 15th, 2022 would have been right after her freshman year at Berkeley. She'd have been 19, drowning in student work and ensemble requirements, maybe questioning whether she'd made the right choice. Instead, she'd be playing Madison Square Garden. "Maya, you still there?" Yeah, I'm here. This is incredible." "It's deserved. Now get back to work. We've got 6 months to make sure you blow that audience away." Maya hung up and went back to the dinner table. Her mother looked up expectantly. "I'm playing Madison Square Garden in June." Her mother dropped her fork. "You're what?" "Madison Square Garden. It's a showcase, not a headlining show, but still. The Garden." Her mother stood up, came around the table, and pulled Maya into a hug. "I knew it. I knew you'd do something amazing." Maya hugged her back, so breathing in the lavender lotion her mother still wore, feeling the solid reality of her presence. Alive, healthy, here. This was what second chances felt like. The 6 months between December and June passed in a blur of preparation and mounting success. Maya's second album, started in January, took shape around themes of rebirth and transformation. Marcus called it even better than the first, and he wasn't prone to empty flattery. February brought a profile in Rolling Stone, a small feature, but still. Maya Lin, the 19-year-old composer redefining contemporary piano, read the headline. The journalist had been fascinated by her story, turning down Berkeley to pursue her own path, caring for her mother through cancer treatment while building a career, writing music that felt both ancient and modern. "You play like someone who's lived a long life," the journalist had said during the interview. "Where does that come from?" Maya had smiled and given her practiced answer, "I just feel things deeply." But the truth was more complicated. She played like someone who'd lived a long life because she had. She'd lived to 23 in one timeline, then been gifted the chance to start over with all that knowledge intact. Every piece she wrote, every performance she gave, was informed by the weight of experiences her 18-year-old peers hadn't had. It gave her an unfair advantage, she sometimes thought, but then she remembered the original timeline, the lost scholarship, the years at Morrison's, the dreams filed away in a box, and decided that maybe the universe owed her this. March brought a European tour. Small venues, 200 to 500 capacity, across London, Paris, Berlin, and Amsterdam. Her mother came for the London shows, healthy enough now to travel, excited to see her daughter perform on an international stage. "Do you ever think about Berkeley?" her mother asked one night in their London hotel room. "About the path you didn't take?" Maya thought about the acceptance letter, probably still in a drawer somewhere at home. thought about the alternate version of herself who might have started at Berkeley in fall 2021, might have spent the past year in practice rooms and theory classes instead of on stages across the world. Sometimes, she admitted, but I don't regret this choice. This feels right. You can still go, next fall when your deferral is up. Maybe I'll defer again. Or maybe I'll decide I don't need it. Her mother smiled. Listen to you. So confident. I learned from the best. April brought the release of her second album, Revisions. It debuted at #12 on the Billboard Classical charts and #3 on the Contemporary Instrumental charts. Better than the first album, Building Momentum. May brought rehearsals for Madison Square Garden. The showcase would feature 4 emerging artists, each with a 30-minute set. Maya was third on the bill. The sweet spot, Marcus said. After the audience was warmed up, but before they got tired. She spent hours perfecting her set list, 8 pieces from both albums, strategically ordered to build emotional momentum. She'd open with something accessible, hook the audience with the familiar, before gradually moving into more challenging territory. The finale would be a new piece, not yet recorded, that she was calling The Sound of Second Chances. It was, secretly, about this whole experience, about waking up in your younger body with knowledge of the future, about choosing differently, about the weight and gift of getting to rewrite your own story. She couldn't tell anyone that's what it was about, but she could play it, and maybe the audience would feel the truth underneath the notes, even without knowing the full story. June 14th, the day before the show, Maya and her mother flew into New York. Marcus met them at the airport with a car service, one of many small luxuries that had become normal over the past year. They stayed at a hotel near the garden, and that night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the original timeline, about 23-year-old Maya, working at Morrison's, bone-tired and dream-dry, wondering what her life might have been if she'd taken the scholarship. That Maya had been so certain she'd made the right choice, sacrificing her future for her mother's health, but also so resentful of what it had cost. This Maya had found a way to have both, and tomorrow night she'd stand on one of the world's most famous stages and prove it. At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and went to the piano in the hotel's small business center. She played quietly, not wanting to disturb other guests. Running through her set list one more time, the door opened, her mother wearing her robe, carrying 2 bottles of water. Couldn't sleep either? Her mother asked. Too nervous? Her mother sat beside her on the piano bench, just like she used to when Maya was little. You're going to be amazing. You know that, right? What if I'm not? Then you'll still have tried, but you won't fail. I've heard you play. You're ready for this. Maya leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Thank you for everything, for supporting this crazy path. Thank you for pushing me to get screened, for saving my life. They sat like that for a while, mother and daughter, alive and healthy and together. In the original timeline, they'd both been broken by this point. Her mother by cancer and treatment, Maya by sacrificed dreams and crushing responsibility. This version was better. Imperfect, but better. I love you, Maya said. Love you too, baby. Now try to get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. June 15th arrived with perfect New York summer weather. Sunny, warm, not too humid. Maya spent the morning in her hotel room, avoiding social media and phone calls, trying to stay centered. Her mother ordered room service and made her eat, made her drink water, made her take care of the physical body that would need to perform tonight. At 2 p.m., they headed to Madison Square Garden for sound check. Walking into the garden was surreal. Maya had seen it on TV, in movies, in countless performances by artists she'd idolized. Now she was here, standing on this stage, looking out at 10,000 empty seats that would be filled in a few hours. Holy shit, she whispered. Language, her mother said automatically, but she was smiling. Sound check took 2 hours. Maya played through her set list, adjusting to the acoustics, working with the sound engineers to get levels right. The piano was a Steinway Model D Concert Grand, the kind of instrument she'd only dreamed of playing on. The keys felt like butter under her fingers, responsive and perfect. Marcus appeared during a break. How are you feeling? Terrified? Good. Terror means you care. Just channel it into the performance. At 5 p.m., Maya went back to the hotel to change. She'd bought a dress for this. Black, simple, professional, but not stuffy. Her mother helped her with makeup, with hair, with all the small details that suddenly felt monumentally important. You look beautiful, her mother said. "And not just because you're my daughter. You look like someone who belongs on that stage." At 6 p.m., they returned to the garden. The crowd was already gathering. Early arrivals, excited for the showcase. Maya watched them from backstage. All these people who'd come to see emerging artists. These who were giving their Friday evening to discover new music. The first artist went on at 7:30, a singer-songwriter from Nashville, acoustic guitar and heartfelt lyrics. She was good. The crowd loved her. The second artist at 8 o'clock was a jazz quartet from New Orleans. They brought energy, improvisation, the kind of playful musicianship that made people smile. The crowd was warmed up now, engaged, ready for more. At 8:30, it was Maya's turn. She walked onto the stage to polite applause, people who didn't know her yet, who were willing to listen but hadn't decided if they cared. She sat at the Steinway, adjusted the bench, looked out at 10,000 faces. For a moment, fear paralyzed her. This was too big. She was too young. She didn't deserve this. Then she saw her mother in the front section, 4th row. To wearing the wig she still needed but wouldn't need much longer. Her mother, alive and healthy because Maya had pushed for early screening. Her mother, who'd believed in her even when it meant deferring Berkeley and taking a non-traditional path. Maya put her fingers on the keys and began to play. She opened with Watershed, the first piece from her debut album. Accessible, beautiful, the kind of music that invited people in. By the second minute, the polite applause energy had shifted to genuine attention. People leaned forward. Phones were lowered. They were listening. Second piece, Fractures, from the same album. More complex, more emotionally demanding. Maya poured into it all the grief of the original timeline, all the loss and regret, and what might have been. The garden's acoustics carried every note perfectly, so filling the space with sound. Third piece, Revisions, the title track from her second album, about rewriting your story, about second chances, about choosing differently. She'd written it in February, still processing the miracle of this timeline, and now she played it for 10,000 people who had no idea it was autobiographical. Fourth and fifth pieces built the momentum, technically challenging works that showcased her skill while maintaining emotional depth. She could feel the audience with her now, riding the journey she was creating. Sixth piece, a newer work, unreleased, called Remission. She'd written it for her mother, about watching someone come back to life after almost losing them. It was quiet, intimate, almost prayer-like. The garden went completely silent. Not a cough, not a shuffle, just 10,000 people holding their breath. Seventh piece, Recovery, the flip side of Remission. Faster, more hopeful, building toward joy. By the final chord, people were smiling. And then the finale. Maya paused, took a breath, looked out at the crowd. "This last piece is called The Sound of Second Chances," she said into the microphone. "Thank you for listening." She began to play. This piece was everything. All of it. The original timeline and this one, the choice she'd made and the choice she'd been spared, the grief and the hope and the impossible gift of getting to try again. She played the sound of waking up in your younger body, the confusion, the fear, the desperate determination to save what you'd lost. She played the sound of her mother collapsing in a grocery store and the sound of preventing it. She played Morrison's Bar and Grill in Madison Square Garden, and the distance between them measured in timelines. She played for 15 minutes straight, the piece building and building, carrying the audience with her. And when she hit the final chord, a major resolution after all that minor key complexity, the garden exploded. Standing ovation. All 10,000 people on their feet. Maya stood, bowed, felt tears on her face she didn't remember crying. The applause continued. She bowed again. It continued. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and an instant, it began to fade. She walked off stage to find Marcus waiting in the wings, grinning like a madman. "That," he said, "was what I've been waiting for. That's the performance that changes everything." Her mother found her backstage 20 minutes later. They held each other, crying for reasons neither could fully articulate. "I'm so proud of you," her mother said. So proud. "I wouldn't be here without you." "Oh, honey, you would have gotten here eventually. You're that talented," but Maya knew better. Without the original timeline, without the loss and grief and 4 years of learning what really mattered, she wouldn't have had the depth to play like that. She'd have been technically proficient, but emotionally shallow. A promising pianist, but not an artist who could move 10,000 people to their feet. The tragedy had made her better. And the second chance had let her use it. The morning after Madison Square Garden, Maya woke to her phone exploding with notifications. Rolling Stone, Maya Lin's garden performance, A Star is Born. Billboard, 19-year-old pianist brings Madison Square Garden to its feet. NPR, Maya Lin and the new face of contemporary classical music. Her Instagram had gained 50,000 followers overnight. Her albums were charting, agents and labels were reaching out. Marcus called at 8 a.m. cackling with delight. We did it. We actually did it. Maya lay in her hotel bed, scrolling through messages and reviews, trying to process that this was real, that she'd actually pulled it off, that she'd taken the knowledge from a failed timeline and built something beautiful. Her mother knocked on the connecting door between their rooms. "You're famous, baby. How does it feel?" "Surreal." "Good surreal or bad surreal?" "Good. Definitely good." They had breakfast in the hotel restaurant. And people recognized her. Polite requests for photos, compliments on last night's performance. Maya was gracious, but part of her was still 23-year-old Maya from Morrison's, the one who'd never imagined this level of recognition. "You'll get used to it," her mother said. Should I? Probably not. Stay humble, stay hungry, but enjoy it too. You earned this. They flew back to Denver that afternoon. The rest of June passed in a whirlwind. Interview requests, performance bookings, label negotiations. Marcus was fielding offers from 3 major classical labels and 2 indie contemporary labels. "We're in the driver's seat now," he said. "We can be picky." In July, Maya made a decision. She officially declined to return to Berkeley in the fall. Not a deferral this time, but a permanent no. "I'm going to build this differently," she told Rebecca over coffee, "on my own terms." Rebecca, who'd spent freshman year at Northwestern and was home for summer, shook her head in amazement. "I thought you were making a huge mistake last year, turning down Berkeley, staying here, dealing with your mom's stuff, but you actually did it. You're actually famous. Not famous, just recognized. You played Madison Square Garden. That's famous. Maybe, or maybe it was just the beginning." August brought the signing with Deutsche Grammophon, one of the most prestigious classical labels in the world. They wanted a 3-album deal, creative control in her hands, significant marketing budget. It was everything Marcus had hoped for. September, when she would have started her sophomore year at Berkeley. Maya instead spent in Berlin, to recording her 3rd album at the legendary Teldec studio. The album would be more experimental, pushing beyond solo piano into chamber arrangements and electronic elements. She video called her mother every day. Her mother was back to work full-time now, nursing shifts at the hospital, fully recovered. The scans still came back clean. The cancer was gone, and the doctors were using words like cured instead of just remission. "I miss you," her mother said during one call, "but I'm so proud of what you're doing. I'll be home for Christmas. I'm holding you to that." October brought a tour through Asia, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore. Sold-out venues in every city. Maya played for audiences who discovered her through YouTube videos of the garden performance, through streaming her albums, through word of mouth in the classical music community. In Tokyo, after a performance at Suntory Hall, an older woman approached her backstage. Through a translator, she said, "Your music sounds like you've lived many lives. How do you know so much about loss at such a young age?" Maya smiled. "I just pay attention. We all experience loss if we live long enough." The woman nodded, satisfied, and Maya marveled at how close she could come to the truth without anyone believing the impossible reality. November brought her 20th birthday. She celebrated it in Singapore, with Marcus and her touring crew, a small cake from a local bakery. Her mother called to sing happy birthday, slightly off-key, exactly as she always had. 20 years old and changing the world, her mother said. "Who would have thought? I would have thought." Maya thought, because I've already lived this life once, and I refuse to waste the second chance. December brought the Christmas break she'd promised. Maya flew home to Denver, to the house they still owned because they'd never had to sell it, to her mother who was healthy and whole and alive. They decorated the tree together, made cookies, watched terrible holiday movies, did all the normal things they hadn't been able to do in the original timeline. On Christmas Eve, sitting by the tree with hot chocolate, her mother said, "Do you ever regret not going to Berkeley?" Maya thought about it honestly. "No, I think this path was better. for both of us. Because of my cancer? Because of a lot of things. But yes, partly that. If I'd gone to Berkeley, I wouldn't have been here when you needed screening. And you might not be sitting here with me now. Her mother squeezed her hand. I'm grateful every day that you pushed me to get those tests. You saved my life, Maya. Never doubt that. You saved mine too, by supporting this unconventional path, by letting me try something different. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the tree lights blink on and off, red and green and gold reflecting in the window against the dark night outside. The year 2023 brought more success than Maya had imagined possible. The third album, Multitudes, released in March to critical acclaim. She won her first Grammy in April for Best Classical Solo Instrumental Album. At 20, she was one of the youngest winners in the category. She played Carnegie Hall in May. This time, it wasn't a youth competition showcase. It was her own headlining concert. Sold out weeks in advance. Her mother sat in the front row, in the same seat where she would have sat in the original timeline if she'd lived to see it. June brought another Madison Square Garden performance, this time as a headlining artist. Not a showcase slot, but the whole show. Her name on the marquee. 15,000 tickets sold. Standing backstage before the show, Maya thought about the original timeline. About 24-year-old Maya, who'd never played anywhere bigger than a high school auditorium. Who'd spent her 20s serving drinks and wondering what might have been. That Maya had sacrificed everything for her mother. This Maya had found a way to save them both. 5 minutes, the stage manager called. Maya walked to the wings, looked out at the filling seats. Somewhere in the fourth row was her mother, healthy and proud and alive. Somewhere in the audience were people who'd discovered her music and found something in it that spoke to them. Somewhere in this moment was proof that second chances were real, that you could rewrite your story if you knew what needed to change. She stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. She sat at the Steinway. She began to play. And in the music, in every note, every phrase, every carefully crafted progression, was the story she could never tell, but would always carry. The story of living a life, losing everything, and getting the impossible gift of trying again. The story of second chances, the sound of salvation, the harmony of a life lived twice, better the second time, perfect in its imperfection, real in a way that fiction never could be. Maya played for 2 hours that night. And when she finally stood for her bow, when 15,000 people rose to their feet, when the applause rolled over her like a wave, she looked out at her mother in the fourth row and thought, we made it. Both of us, together. And that, in the end, was the only song that mattered. 3 years later, the documentary crew wanted to film Maya at the piano where it all started, the upright Yamaha in her childhood bedroom. She'd kept the house in Denver even though she barely lived there anymore, kept it because it held memories, kept it because her mother still lived there when Maya was on tour. So this is where you practice as a kid? The director asked, adjusting the lighting. This is where I learned, Maya corrected. There's a difference. She sat at the bench, it still creaked that high C sharp, and ran her fingers over the keys. 23 years old now, the same age she'd been when she'd woken up in this room 4 years ago, disoriented and desperate and determined to change everything. Except she couldn't tell the documentary that. The official story was simpler. Prodigy turns down Berkeley, takes a risk, makes it big. Devoted daughter cares for sick mother while building a career. Overnight success that was actually years in the making. None of it was a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. Tell me about the early days, the director said. When you were just playing coffee shops? Maya thought about Carmen's, about that first performance where she'd played her grief and hope for an audience of maybe 40 people. I was trying to figure out who I was as an artist, what I wanted to say. And what did you want to say? That second chances are real. That you can save the people you love if you're willing to sacrifice the right things. That music is the only language that can carry the weight of living the same years twice. I wanted to say that loss can make you deeper, Maya said instead. That pain has value if you transform it into art. The director smiled. That's beautiful. We'll use that. They filmed for 3 more hours. Maya playing, talking about her process, explaining her compositions. The documentary would premiere at Sundance next month, part of the continued momentum of her career. 4 albums now, 2 Grammys, tours across 6 continents, collaborations with orchestras, film composers, electronic artists. She'd built something that would have been impossible in the original timeline, all because she'd known what to avoid, where to focus, how to use the depth that came from living through loss. When the crew finally left, Maya sat alone at the piano. Her mother was at work, night shift at the hospital, back to full-time nursing, completely healthy. 5 years cancer-free. Cured, the doctors said. No longer any different from someone who'd never had it at all. In the original timeline, her mother would have been 46 and dead. Or alive, but diminished. Still fighting, still struggling, still drowning in medical debt. Maya pulled out her phone and opened an old photo album, the one she'd made of images from this timeline that echoed the original. Her mother at her first Madison Square Garden show. Her mother at the Grammy Awards. Her mother healthy and smiling and whole. She'd saved her. By pushing for early screening, by being there during treatment, by earning enough money to help with bills. She'd saved her mother and herself simultaneously. The piano sat silent under her hands. She thought about playing something, but instead, she just sat there, feeling the weight of this moment. 23 years old, the same age she'd been when it all started, when she'd woken up 18 again with knowledge of the future. 4 years had passed, the exact span of time she'd traveled back, which meant, Maya realized, that she'd now lived to this moment twice. Once in the original timeline, serving drinks at Morrison's, crushed by debt and lost dreams. And once in this timeline, successful beyond measure, her mother alive and well. She'd bridged the gap, closed the loop, reached the point where both timelines converged, except one version was so much better than the other. Her phone buzzed. So Marcus, Berlin wants you for their New Year's concert. Philharmony, are you interested? Maya typed back. Always. She had a career to build, music to write, performances to give. A life to live that honored both timelines, the loss that taught her and the success that redeemed it. The piano bench creaked as she stood. Outside, the lawnmower droned its summer song. Somewhere, someone's sprinkler clicked and hissed. The world continued its ordinary rhythms, unaware that Maya Lin had lived these same years twice, unaware of the miracle of second chances. And that was fine. Some stories were meant to be private. Some truths could only be expressed in music.
Exactly,
Maya went to her desk and pulled out manuscript paper. She had an idea for a new piece, something about cycles, about returning to the beginning with different knowledge, about the grace of getting to try again. She'd call it recurrence. And it would be perhaps the closest she'd ever come to telling the truth about where her music really came from. She began to write, and the notes flowed like memory, like gratitude, like the sound of a life saved and a future earned, the sound of second chances, the sound of survival, the sound of now.
AP66SHB. Not much more information. Alvarez, handcrafted. Play Freebird. Got a SoundCloud? No. Can I see the headstock? Yes. Does that tell you anything at all? Influencer hand. Yeah, it's pretty. Is that a capo? No, it's a little snark tuna. But the capo is out there. Steel strings. Yeet. They've never been changed. I'm not playing something. Ah, yes, the diamond guitar. The guitar with diamonds. I want to see. I'm smoking a Super Bowl tomorrow. Hi, Noah. Hi, Star Kid Pep. Can't make it the name of the guitar. Don't make out. Oh, can't make out the name. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Capo. In England, it's pronounced capo. Of course it is. Really? AP66. Oh, AP66. SHB. Ah. think I found it.